Manny Arora, back in the Golden Scissors studio. Criminal law. You need a defense attorney. He's your guy. In Atlanta, but practices nationwide. Right now, Manny Arora is getting all kinds of press because your client in New York, Anna Delvey, has said that she's starting her own law firm. Explain that to me.
That was just a joke, I think, and some people misunderstood. Obviously, you can't start a law firm without a law degree or being in prison.
All right. So how does that make the news? I read this and I'm going, and you're even quoted in the story, like the Daily Mail got a hold of you, right?
I don't know if they reached me or whatever, but somebody had called and I just said, look, this is just a joke. It's not possible. And I guess it's a slow news day, so they just run with anything that she may have said just in jest.
Well, okay. So what's the joke though? Like, was she unhappy with you? Was she unhappy with the system? Or I don't understand. Who did she tell this to?
I'm not sure. I mean, she may have texted it to somebody, but between her father, her friends, anybody that's willing to sell anything that she says, it just turned into a thing for no reason. It's just like, this legal stuff doesn't seem that hard. I could probably start my own thing and probably give people, some comfort because she's had some not the best attorneys in the past. We're all good. It's not anything to do with us, but it was just blowing off a little steam. I guess we're having some fun.
So she can text people in jail?
You have an app where it's very specific people. It's a monitored text
Uh-huh.
service, so you can text them through this get out of communication app that you have for the prisons.
Wow, really? Okay. And the people that she surrounds herself with, I'm assuming, and this would be probably part of your job too, as you go in with your client and say, all right, who do you have, who's surrounding you? Because we have to find out who we can trust and who we can't trust, because everybody's going to want to make a buck off her.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, she is who she is, and the people are who they are. I mean, you're stuck in jail, and you talk to who you can talk to, and you can't control what they do.
She does realize that when she gets out of jail, when you get her out of jail, she's going to be able to make a lot of money just by telling her story.
Well, for her sake, I hope so. But eventually all this fever is going to die down. But right now it's pretty high. She took a lot of abuse with this story. Then there was an art show, and she got some bad press, with that. Even though I think her sketches are pretty cool.
Oh yeah, that's right. She did an art. Anna Delvey. So for those that don't know who Anna Delvey is, if you've got to watch the Netflix doc, Inventing Anna, the girl that plays Ruth in Ozark plays Anna Delvey on this documentary. But it's a real story of, and we talk about her every time Manny's in here, but it's a real story of this girl that was trying to open up this foundation, and she maybe not was the most forthright with her truth and her information about getting this loan money, but the way that she was able to get into people's minds and make them do what she wanted them to do is amazing, absolutely amazing. So that's who Anna Delvey is in a nutshell, right? You got anything to add to that?
Nope, that's essentially what the show portrays.
She is a master manipulator.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
In my opinion, as most women would be, but
yeah,
not to be
exactly.
sexist. Sorry.
So behind bars, she had an art show.
Yes. So what she did is
It's great.
does a lot of sketches. She's been to art school before, and so some up and coming art promoter folks got a hold of it and decided to put this on there, and so everybody's going to make a buck off of it, hopefully.
Yeah. So she has an art show. She's texting people through the app, and then she says she's going to start her own law firm. And whatever reporter decided to pick that up didn't do much digging, I guess. Well, I guess it all depends on the publication too. It's like Anna Delvey says she's starting a new law firm. Doesn't matter if it's true, right?
But the stupidity of that statement into public, it just kind of tells you where we stand.
Didn't Casey Anthony start her own private investigator firm?
I mean, at least you can, pay the $100 and get your PI license. You can't just start a law firm. And the fact that some journalist, I don't know what the Daily Mail's like. I assume it's a tabloid kind of thing.
I have no idea. Yeah, I think so. I'm pretty sure it is. TheAuroraLawFirm.com is the website for Manny if you need him. Before we get to any voicemails that you, by the way, can leave on our hotline at 404-369-3825, or the questions via social media, which we always run through when Manny's here. Outside of the Anna Delvey case, what else you got going on?
Just the usual dog and cat kind of stuff. Keeping up with all these gang cases here in Atlanta that are going on, stuff in the news. It's been pretty hectic.
So we've seen this rash of shootings in our country, which is absolutely disgusting and horrible. But if the shooter is still alive, and this goes for any shooting, not just mass shootings at schools or grocery stores or what have you, but just it's obvious that they were, when I say it's obvious, they found the gun on the person
Right.
and they might have even admitted it in interrogation, right? They still need defense because that's how our system works. You have due process. You take that job.
You take the job not because you are doing something moral. The issue under our system for it to work is everybody gets a defense no matter what you've done. You don't get to pick and choose who the good guys or the bad guys are. In that situation, if there's a gun, there's a confession, you know the person's going to be convicted. What you're doing is trying to contain the sentence instead of getting the maximum. What can you do? Try to find some mitigation, some redeeming quality in that person, mental health issues, whatever it is. You just don't go into a place and start shooting children or other stuff unless you've got something seriously wrong with you.
Right.
And so guilt innocence isn't always the issue. Sometimes you know that's a foregone conclusion and you're just dealing with mitigation as far as that goes. But the dangerous issue is when we make comments like that is we don't get to pick and choose who you represent or who you try your hardest for, because then the system would collapse, because then who's deciding who's worthy of a defense?
So you go in with the mindset of this is the system, this is my job, versus emotionally and personally going, I'm not representing this guy. It's literally a job, because defense attorneys always get the bad rap because trial by social media, that person is automatically guilty if they were handcuffed or even accused of it. Your job is to represent them. And then even if they get off, I mean, look at OJ, for example. I mean, OJ was acquitted,
Right.
but decades later, everybody's still, I mean, if you were to ask somebody, what is OJ Simpson known for? They're gonna say, oh, he killed his wife.
Right. But
They're not even going to say the lover.
right, but the point is, nobody actually listens to the entire trial or understands the evidence the way it is. I mean, at some point, people want to bash the jurors, but you, the listeners, are essentially jurors.
Right.
You could be on that jury, and we don't know, because nobody that I know has ever watched it from cover to cover, as far as I goes, sat through the pretrial motions and see what happens. The biggest issue is if there's police misconduct, doesn't that need to be called out, or do we just simply say, hey, we know he did it, so who cares? Baby with the bathwater, all those kinds of, colloquialisms that you could say. It's our job to make sure things are done properly by the government side. So they're not taking shortcuts or lying or doing anything like that. And then the chips fall where they may. I'm not here as a moral judgment police, but everybody deserves a defense under our system, and I don't get to pick and choose who I do.
Well, that's part of our system, is the checks and balances. I mean,
Sure.
you're the checks and they're the balances. They're the balances, you're the checks. So,
Right. If the government does its job right, there's no issues, there's no exaggerations, then people are most likely going to get convicted.
have you seen any of the Lincoln Lawyer on Netflix? I'm on this binge watching thing. I apologize, but
I saw the movie. Haven't gone through the whole thing, but I assume it's some crazy murder, and in the end, it'll turn out that he really did it after he's acquitted. Right? That's usually how it goes.
well, I don't want to spoil alert, but it's really good. I would think that you would like it because he is a defense attorney,
Yeah.
and most movies and television shows always depict the prosecution.
Yeah.
The defense is always the devil, and that's kind of where I was getting at the beginning of this. And in this case, it's all about the defense. The prosecution is actually the devil.
Yeah.
So the things that Mickey Holler, the attorney, does is like the his cross. I mean, just like the stuff he thinks of. And it's like you have to be a brilliant mind to think on your toes. I mean, I know it's a show and it's a written show, but still, in real life, you people, the defense attorneys of the world, you do the same. The good ones like you do the same exact thing. You're able to take what they say. I mean, the way that he does the things in this trial are absolutely, like, you're just in their jaw drops. So there has to be some truth to it, obviously.
There's always truth to it. If you know the facts of your case inside and out, then it's really easy to be able to think on your feet, because there's always going to be twists and turns. Nobody is 100% going to tell the truth. Testimony always changes on the stand, and there's always little nuggets that the other side doesn't want out, and it's your job to figure it out and bring that up.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, when I do it, there's no dramatic music, but yeah, you get good at it after a while.
It's really interesting. They show them picking the jury for this big trial. There's like a bunch of different cases. He's inherited this law firm from an attorney that was murdered. So that's part of the storyline in this first season. And then he's got all these little cases that he has to go and how he defends his clients, are very clever and creative. And then it's the big case is the overall theme, right? But when they go to pick the jury, which I'm sure you've done a million times, it's I guess each seat gets 10 challenges. Defense and prosecution gets 10 challenges. Is that true?
Well, on the show, yeah, but in some states it's 9, sometimes it's 12. You know, it just varies between federal and state jurisdictions.
Oh, okay. Did not know that.
But 10 seems like a good number.
Okay, so 10 on the show, and then they go through, and he brings in this woman that he knows that's a professional poker player, which of course, I think that's cool. And she can read people like crazy.
So are you saying I need to hire you and have you come in, because that will be very helpful?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of truth to that. I mean, people dig too deep into the science of certain things when really there's just certain people have a knack for it and have an instinct. I have an instinct for reading people. This woman in the show, it's the tells. They're called tells. And it's kind of obvious the certain tells, scratching the leg and, eyebrow, rubbing the nose. I mean, these are all obvious tells, but then you have to figure out what the tells mean, and then there's certain people that have poker faces.
Yeah.
Those are the ones you kind of have to be worried about and you question. The ones with the tells, you know everything about them, but the ones that you can't figure out, those are the ones. So you probably go through that, right? When you're picking the juries,
you try your best. I mean,
do you have a person like that sits there and tells you the tells?
I have not thought about hiring a poker player. I mean, occasionally there's a jury consultant, but they're just mostly helping us craft questions to be asked.
Well, he declined the jury consultant and hired her instead.
Okay.
Yeah.
Smart play on his part then.
Yeah.
But yeah, the jury consultants help you, basically come up with questions that you can ask. But when you're the lawyer and you're questioning all the people simultaneously, it's very hard to see who's doing what. So it'd be kind of helpful to have one or two of those truth seekers, I guess, in the audience.
I'll tell you what, the first one's pro bono for you. You bring,
that might be some good.
You bring me in there and I'll give you my 2 cents. We'll see how well I do. I mean, it can't hurt, right?
Can't hurt.
You don't have to listen to me. So anyway, watch that. I think that's right up your alley.
Yes.
You're gonna
like something to do this weekend.
Yeah. So all right, let's get to some of the questions. Again, social media, you can get to all of our social media, podcastthebs.com, and just put, for Manny, or you can DM us if you don't want it out in the world and you don't want everybody to comment on it, which I totally understand and I totally get. If you're a CI for Drug Task Force and DHS doesn't know it and they want to drug test you, but as you know, excuse me, you can't blow your cover because then the whole world would know. So you react like these individuals and you have to do like they do, which is if they say hit this, you have to. You following so far?
Yes.
Okay. So what would be the suggestion of what I need to do, because I don't have my children involved in my job and I don't get paid to do it either? What do I need to do?
I'm not certain what the question is, but DHS, assuming that's the Department of Homeland Security.
Yeah.
I'm not sure why they're drug testing you unless you are on probation or something from the federal courts. But if you're working for a state task force as a CI, they have confidential things that they can send back and forth to different agencies so people know that. Because if you're going to fail your drug test, DHS doesn't know you're a CI, you're going to get incarcerated.
I think that's the question. So CI is a confidential informant. Okay. And they're having an issue, a personal issue with their kids, but they have to do the drug for their job, but they can't blow their cover.
So DHS, they may mean DFACS, Department of Family and Children's Services.
Yeah, probably.
Is probably what I'm guessing. That's fine. I mean, as far as that goes, you can have one of the agents call them directly and it wouldn't be blown because all the stuff from the family services is confidential. Even the lawyers have a very, very hard time getting a hold of it. So that won't be an issue. If they mean defects, the DHS part doesn't really make that much sense to me.
God, that'd suck. You're like, that's your job. You're undercover and you have to do all these things. And
well, a lot of informants get paid and some of them get paid pretty well, to do these things.
Yeah. All right. My husband got indicted last week in Georgia. He's facing 7 charges. His possession of meth, possession of firearm during the commission of a felony, willful obstruction of law enforcement officer, 2 counts of destroying or causing serious or debilitating injury to a police dog, possession of drug-related object, and receipt possession or transfer of a firearm back convicted felon. That's a lot. My husband was arrested last year in Tennessee. He's currently serving 3 years in a Tennessee prison. When he was arrested a year ago, the cops arrested him at our home in Georgia, but instead of taking him to Georgia jail, they transferred him to a Tennessee jail. My husband was never arrested on the 7 pending charges he's facing in Georgia. My question is, how can my husband be indicted in Georgia if he's never been arrested slash charged? Ooh.
All right, so if he's in a Tennessee prison for 3 years, that sounds like he got convicted for some unrelated crimes in Tennessee. So what happens is while you're serving that time, any other state can charge you with whatever they want, and then they put a hold on you. So instead of getting released at the end of your sentence in Tennessee, then they're going to ship you to whatever county in Georgia that's brought the charges against you, and then you go from there.
All right, so that's the answer to her question. How can my question is, how can my husband be indicted in Georgia if he's never been arrested?
Well, I mean, he's already in prison, so there's nothing to arrest. They'll just ship him over there. As long as there's an indictment, they don't necessarily have to physically come and get you and fingerprint you in. They'll just leave you in Tennessee until your sentence is up for that case, and then they'll come get you for Georgia, and then you'll start the process in Georgia.
God, that's a lot. I mean, all those that's a lot of charges. I mean, that's kind of ridiculous.
A couple of them are sort of repetitive. It's alternative theories, like with the gun. I mean, if you have a gun anywhere near drugs, they'll charge you with that. But then if you're a felon, then you add another charge for that exact same gun. So you can be charged multiple ways from Sunday. And it sounds like there was some fleeing from the police, or maybe his car hit the drug dog, or he shot at somebody.
What's the longest rap sheet you've ever seen on a client?
We had a guy with like 40-something arrests, a lot of
Jesus.
minor stuff, but basically every year he's getting arrested for something stupid.
Like
Drugs, marijuana, then it's suspended license, stuff like that. It just went on. It was like almost a 35-page book as far as that goes. It's pretty bad.
Doesn't it get to a point where the judge is like, all right, you just have no value to society. It's time for you just to go away for a very long time.
Right. Those are recidivist punishments. But if you're just doing the minor stuff, you'll do a year there, a couple of years here and there. But they're just waiting for the big one. When you get the big one, they'll probably end up getting a life sentence.
How does that happen to somebody? How do you get arrested? I'm guessing he was probably in his 30s, right?
Well, if you're going to get that many arrests, you're probably starting at 17 when you're an adult and going forward. And so if you're getting the minor stuff, you're paying fines, you're doing these kinds of things. Once it gets a little bigger, you'll do a couple of years at a time. And then if you actually get caught with some substantial amount of drugs, then you're pretty much in there for a decade or more.
I wonder if there's any truth to it's a rush for people. Like once you get arrested and you get off, like you don't serve any jail time, you don't mind getting arrested again because you think that you're going to get off. You just keep pushing it until you go to jail finally.
I'm sure there's a lot to that. It's sort of like when we speed on the roads, it's kind of a thrill.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you can say once they get caught and get off, you say, thank God, this didn't happen. I'm not doing it again. I'm
I don't
changing
think
my
most
ways.
people do that though.
Yeah, well, thankfully for that, that's why I'm in business. If they did, I'd be out. But yeah, it's a rush and you get this, but it costs a lot of money to get good lawyers and things of that nature. But I'm hoping most people learn their lesson. But if not, we're here for you.
I got caught with 8.5 grams of weed at school. The weed was packaged into 5 separate packages. I have no previous record. I found the weed in the bathroom and was going to turn it in, but I got scared and didn't turn it in. What are my options?
Well, your options are they're going to charge you with possession with intent to distribute, especially in a school, so that enhances the punishment. And hopefully there's a witness or somebody that says you saw it. Otherwise, you're going to be charged and you have to defend yourself and present that story, and hopefully somebody will believe it.
Yeah. I've been charged with theft by shoplifting in Georgia. However, when arrested, I had not left the store yet. How can they charge me when nothing was taken off the property? Ooh, I got something on that too.
Well, it's going to depend. I mean, if you've gone through the cashier area and you're basically heading for the door, but they stopped you, you don't get penalized by saying, hey, I didn't, make it. This isn't like Shawshank Redemption where you get out of the jail and now you're, running. It's all based on intent. You can theoretically be charged with attempted shoplifting, even if you didn't go through the cashier because you were stuffing stuff into your shirt. And especially, God, I hope you didn't do it at a Walmart or a Target because they have cameras everywhere. But that's attempted shoplifting. Or if you get through the pay area without paying, but not out the front door, then you've essentially completed it because you didn't pay for the items.
That's what happened to me. My summer into senior year in high school, Sarasota, Florida, went into the Kmart before going to the beach. Me and my buddy, we wanted to go and steal 2 do-rags.
Okay.
All right. $1.29. They were $1.29. I remember that. And I picked a white do-rag with the black paisley design, and I put it in my pocket. And I was walking around and I just had this weird feeling. My buddy had already taken his and left the store.
Yeah.
And he was in the car waiting for me. And I felt weird, just this weird feeling. So I take it out of my pocket and I shove it down my pants. And now, granted, I'm wearing swimming trunks. I've got this University of Florida Gators like half shirt on for whatever reason, and flip flops. And as I'm walking out the door, this large man comes up to me, and I was a big dude, for a senior. I was like, 6'3", 220 or something. And I was a big dude. And he comes up and he says, "Sir, I need you to come with me in this back room." And I said, "No, it's not happening." He goes, "I saw you take it." And I said, "Take what?" And he goes, "I have no problem doing a strip." He's like scaring me. Strips. I didn't. I was like, so I started walking with him. And then finally he's like, "All right, dude, I took it. All right, you can have it back." I was like, I gotta go. My friend's waiting. He's like, "No, it's not that easy." The cop shows up, and thank God the cop knew who I was from the football team because I'd been in the paper a couple times. And I was telling him, I was like, "If I get arrested, sir, I'm going to lose my scholarship. I, have a potential to go here and here and here." He's like, "Well, I'll make a deal with you. If you call your mother right now and tell her, then I'll let you go." I said, "Not a problem." I knew what I was going to do. I was going to call my line in my house.
Yeah.
So I called my line in the house and I was like, "She's there." He goes, "She needs to call me within the next week or we'll come and get you." I said, "Not a problem." So I ended up telling my mom like a couple days later, and she breaks down and cries. She goes, "Am I just not providing for you?" I was like, "No, I just wanted to steal something. I don't know why. I had the money. I just wanted to steal it. I stole all the I was stealing when I was a kid. I was just that kind of guy." So yeah, so I didn't walk out of the store with it, but I was walking towards the exit. So that's what
Right. I mean, the point is, mission was complete at that point.
right, exactly. I was literally 5 feet from breathing freedom with my new white $1.29 do-rag with black paisley design. Can I be convicted for flee and eluding motor vehicle with no video evidence? What is that? What's flee and eluding?
I mean, if a cop is trying to stop you and you keep going, that's what they're trying to do. And yes, you don't need video evidence as long as the cop says that the blue lights were on and they were trying to pull you over for something they had cause to try to stop you for, or a reasonable suspicion, and then you took off or you ran or whatever, then yes, they can charge you with fleeing.
Let's do a voicemail here.
Hey, this is Alice from Douglasville. My husband and I were carpooling to work. We normally don't, but my car was having problems. Already running late, and of course we get pulled over. Long story short, the cop found some cocaine in the car that wasn't mine. But since both of our names were on the car, he didn't own up. They stuck me with it too. I've since lost my job, but we are separated at the moment as well. I'm wondering if there's any way I can prove it was not mine. Thank you.
She sounds very nice. She
Yep.
doesn't sound like a cokehead.
No, it's going to depend on where the cocaine was found and then who is driving the car. Regardless of whose name it's under, the driver is presumed to know what's in the car because they're the driver. Now let's go with the assumption that she's the passenger. It's really easy to beat that case unless it was like in her purse or something of that nature. If it was in the back seat or in her trunk or someplace else, and it's primarily the husband's car because she said her car was having problems. It's what's called equal access. She should have a very straightforward defense and should be able to do just fine with even a second-year lawyer. This isn't difficult stuff. She should be able to win that case.
We get that a lot, right? The car thing, something's found in the car, it's not yours, but that's also probably a very popular excuse by everybody that gets caught with something in their car.
Certainly, but it's like the drivers always get stuck. But if I'm the passenger and out there, then the question is, do I reasonably know what it is, or is it within my arm's reach, or is it visible? If it's hidden in the glove compartment and I'm just a passenger, or it's in the trunk, if the officers need to make their quota, they'll arrest everybody. But you'll have a straightforward defense. It's called equal access, and you should do fine.
Oh, you know what I wanted to ask you with that Lincoln lawyer stuff? Do you have a private investigator that works for you?
We hire a contract with private investigators all the time.
Like he's not your buddy. He's not hanging out with you all the time.
No,
He's not your protector.
no, I don't have that. And I don't have a driver, but Lincoln Lawyers where the guy works out of his car and he's got the biker gang protecting him, but
Yeah.
I don't have a biker gang friend, so
Yeah, because that's cool.
I need to step up my game because yes, like
You could have the Manny lawyer and totally get a show on Netflix, but you got to have the little bells and whistles.
well, then I'll get a Maybach, but Maybachs are not meant to be driven. You got to have a driver for that, and that will be just sweet.
You be the Tesla, be the Tesla attorney or something.
Kind of cool too.
And the car drives itself. You don't even need a driver.
Yeah, that's a little iffy, but yes.
But you got to have the PI, like the Lincoln lawyer guy. He's got this PI, and he's kind of a love and hate character because he talks. He. I don't want to be mean because I like the character and I like the actor, but it's almost he's kind of goofy because he's supposed to be this tough guy, former biker gang guy, and he's a private investigator and he's very good and he's well connected, and he's got a soft side to him, but he's the tough guy. He just doesn't strike me, or he doesn't come across as the overly tough guy. Not like in the movie The Lincoln Lawyer.
Yeah.
I think they had what's the big country singer guy? He was in the biker gang. Trace Atkins, right? He looks mean, right? Like he's going to tear your head off. This guy's like, oh, give me a hug,
So he doesn't look like Sam Elliott, which would be the classic
right
tough guy.
No, I mean Sam Elliott is the tough guy. Can a felon own a black powder gun in Georgia?
Sorry, black what gun?
Black powder. I'm assuming like a Civil War type of gun.
Yeah, if it doesn't work necessarily, then I think that should be fine. Or you can just get get it checked. If it's not working, then it's not a real gun. The whole idea is it's got to be able to dispel a pellet, with gunpowder and things like that of that nature.
Why wouldn't you be able to own that?
Because you're not allowed to own a gun if you're a felon.
I forgot the felon thing. Yeah. Sorry. I was just like, why couldn't you have a black powder gun? Why not? I forgot the felon thing. Yeah. So if it works, you can't have it.
Right. I mean, there's a specific definition in the statute that says what a gun is and how it's supposed to work. And, maybe if you're shoving the thing with a stick in the front, maybe it's not that way, but I wouldn't risk it.
Can a felon own an old pirate cannon from a boat? If the cannonball comes out, you cannot own it, right?
Well, I don't know. Does a cannonball sound like a gun?
Yeah.
You know what? You buy that and I'll represent you for free if they come after you. Because that would be an interesting case to do.
Let me get my felony charge first, and then let me get my cannon.
Well, just do shoplifting. Just get like a TV or something under your arm and walk out. That'll make the criteria to make it a felony, and then we'll go from there.
Okay. Well, I'm sure that we have listeners that are felons, and they would be more than happy. I will front the money for you to go buy a cannon. And then we'll go from there, and we'll have some.
Guarantee you can find a cannon on Amazon.
I'm sure you can.
Shipping might be a difficult thing, but
here's the last one. Can a trespass person hire someone to get around the trespass? I notified a company person. They were no longer allowed on my property and fired them for causing damage to our pool equipment. They then hired someone else to come on my property while I was not home to take pictures of the damage after I told them not to do that. What legal recourse do I have? It's interesting.
All right. So you gave a trespass warning to a company, said, don't come here. The company hires somebody else and that person comes onto your property.
Yeah.
Well, the trespass still applies unless you gave permission to this other company to come out there, because people aren't just allowed on your property, except for the common area, like walking up to the driveway to the front door, something like that. They're not allowed to go to the back and things of that nature. So you would still have a trespass violation as far as that goes, as long as you can prove that that person was related to the company. Otherwise, you have a separate trespass action against the person because they just came on your property without permission.
I think the word hired is the key word in this whole thing, because if they hadn't hired them, they didn't obtain their services, they wouldn't have given money for their services, and they just said, hey, can you do me a favor and go on that property and take some pictures? Probably a little bit different, right?
Well, if you're the company that's been kicked off my property, you can't then hire somebody else to come back on my property to do something.
That's what I'm saying, hire. If they don't hire, that they don't give them
right.
money.
If I, as the owner, didn't give you permission, then it doesn't matter who the third party hired. They're not allowed to come on there because I'm the only one that can give permission.
That's what happened with this house up the street here. It's beautiful, brand new house. It almost looks like it doesn't fit in the neighborhood. and it's a 7-figure house. And the original builders ran out of money. Then somebody else came in and got it. We actually kind of knew those people, and then they sold it, and then it was sold again, I think. And when the guy was selling, it wasn't in the house, and somebody came out to the house. African American guy came out to the house to look at it or something like that. There was some type of miscommunication. The owner shows up, thinks that the guy's, for whatever reason, the news came and everything. And it turned out, and a gun was drawn because the guy didn't know he was. I think he was a photographer taking pictures for the house or something, and the guy didn't know it, so he pulls a gun on him. And of course, it becomes a race thing, and this and this and that, and it was a big ordeal.
Wow, a gun. I assume it was during the daytime. I mean,
It was during. It was like noon.
don't we just ask questions anymore before guns get drawn? Like, hey, what are you doing here? Or
No.
stay away and call the cops? And
No, we don't. We don't. I mean, there's not been probably a bigger conversation about gun control than there is going to be or happening right now and going to be here probably the next couple of years because of what we've seen. And it'll just be interesting if all the brains in the chairs that we put these people in are able to come together and figure out a solution to make everyone happy. You know,
you're trying to tell some jokes now.
What's that?
I said, are you telling some jokes now?
You don't think it could ever be
Not
done?
even possible. The NRA convention's on Friday in Texas, so go figure how that's going to work.
Yeah, it's it's one side screams mental health and mental illness when it's convenient for them. The other side is like it's all about the guns and it's the guns it's the guns' fault. And there's truth to both. That's the thing. Is like neither one of them is wrong and neither one of them is completely right. They just have to check their egos at the door, check their political party at the door, have a seat and say, all right, what am I willing to give up in order to get what I want? And the other side has to say the exact same thing. Because in my opinion, not one side is right and one side is wrong.
What about what we want, Jason? If I want to own a gun, that should be what they're listening to. But what's the issue if I have to wait a few days to get a gun? Do I really want your gun purchase to be an impulse?
Oh, you're preaching to the choir.
Because look at the rules we just changed in Georgia. I mean, it's gotten as lax as anybody in the country now. This is happening, and so when we wonder why.
Yeah, you're preaching to the choir. As a proud, safe firearm owner and a big fan of firearms and love to shoot firearms, I have no problem, and I've said this a million different times, no problem passing regulation, being put on a list, waiting a couple days, checks. I think that without a doubt, every firearm owner should have a license and you should have at least an hour of training from a professional at a range and have range time. Just like a pilot needs a license and it has to log so many hours in order to get the license. I think a firearm owner should be the exact same thing.
Just like a car, but the Texas Attorney General came out last night saying we need to start arming the teachers to prevent this kind of stuff. So we're back to what the Florida thing happened, right? Arm the teachers.
Arm the teachers, yes.
That's interesting, right?
Yeah, and I've never been a fan of arming the teachers because I don't think it's their responsibility to now become G.I. Joe.
Right.
They're teachers. They're there to educate. Not many teachers out there are going to be able to fire the gun at. I mean, maybe they will, maybe they won't. I don't know. But it's not their job. I mean, you're not paying these teachers enough money as is, and now you want to say what for an extra couple $1,000s we're going to give you a gun, and now you have to be in charge of protecting the school because you're now super teacher. I mean, that's absurd.
What if they shoot and miss?
And they shoot the kid, and now they're going to go to jail for murder, right?
Something like that.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know. It's a mess. TheAuroraLawFirm.com. That is the website for Manny Arora. If you need his services, he will defend you until he's blue in the face. Yes, located here in Atlanta, but practices nationwide. So feel free to reach out. Good seeing you, buddy, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thanks, Jason.